This video is going to demonstrate how to code CSS transitions for Web Design 2. Once you're in Blackboard, click on the Demos link and then scroll down to where it says CSS Transitions. So right here. And then you're going to want to download the demo files. So I'm going to put that into my Web 2 folder, inside of Demos, save. Don't close out of Blackboard because we are going to need that open. So here's my transitions. I'm going to get rid of the zip file, and then I'm going to open up the index. All right, so this is what we have so far. So I'm actually going to make this smaller. And this is going to look, hopefully, maybe you won't remember, but this is the links assignment that you did in Web Design 1. It just is styled differently, but it's the same, most of the same content. All right, I'm going to open this up in a code editor. I'm going to open up my index, and I'm going to open up my CSS. And I'm going to make these larger so that way you can see them. There we go. And index, I'm going to go to View, Toggle, Soft Wrap. Okay, so we are going to start with adding transitions to the first set. We can see that they have an ID called Search on them. Right? They have an ID called Search on them, so let's go to the CSS. And we'll see that Search A and Search A Hover are already styled. Now, saying Search A is the same as saying style all states of a link for the A tag if it's inside the search ID. And then down here it says, but okay, I want Hover to be green. And we can see that that's actually working right now. All right, so it's actually turning it green. So what we want to do is we want to start by saying what we want to have animated. So right now the color is changing. So you have to make sure that that color change works first. Don't go in and try to do the transition without first coming in and making sure that your hover works. Okay, so my hover works, so now I can come in and add in the transition. So I want to come up here to the normal state because we do this on the normal state, and I'm going to do a transition colon color, because that's the property that I want to change, is the color. And then I will say, let's make it last for 2 seconds. It will be linear, and we don't want any type of a delay. So now whenever we refresh, we put our mouse over them. You can see it kind of takes a while, but it does eventually. It feels like it takes a while. It's only 2 seconds, but it feels like it takes a long time. All right. And that's kind of how simple it is. So let's go in and look at a few others. So we've got the sports ID here. So if I go to my CSS, right now it has a background color of blue with a font color of white, and then it changes to the pink color. All right, so we can see that. So let's go in, let's add onto the A hover, let's add letter spacing. So I want space between the letters, let's do 4 pixels. Okay, so again, let's make sure that that works. All right, so we see that the letter spacing is working, so that's good. Let's transition the letter spacing. So I'm going to go up to the normal state, and I'm going to do transition. And the property that I want to transition is letter hyphen spacing. And let's see, we'll do 1 second, ease in, 0 seconds, because we don't need that delay. There we go, look at it grow and then get smaller. Okay, that's the transition happening there. And then if I wanted to, I could also transition the background color. So I'm going to go into my code editor. I'm actually going to tell this to have soft wrap so that way we can see it when it goes on to the next line. So after this 0 seconds, I'm going to put a comma, and then I will just type background hyphen color. So I'm saying that's the property that I want to change. We'll do 2 seconds, and then ease out, and then 1 second. So basically what I'm saying is that I want it to wait 1 second. Well, in this case, I'm having it wait 1 second. So I'm saying after it's done doing the letter spacing, then it can start doing the background change. So I'm going to save this, come in and refresh. Okay, so after the letter spacing is done animating, then the background color starts. Okay, now if you notice, whenever I had hit refresh, it looked like it was gone for a minute. So let's take a look at just a quick fix for that. If you go back to Blackboard, you're going to see I have a note here, prevent transitions from happening when the page loads, because these transitions are happening anytime the page is loading. So that means whenever I refresh, see, it's transitioning between the white background color and the blue. So we need to fix that. So the first thing we have to do is on the body tag, add this class. So I want to highlight and copy this, go to my HTML, go up to the opening body tag, hit space, and then paste. And then it says before the body closes, I need this piece of code. So I'm going to grab all of this, copy, and then paste that in there. And then in the CSS, I need all of this. Okay, it says, note the asterisk after the class name. This just selects everything after the opening body tag. And then it makes it so the transitions do not happen whenever the page loads. So now let's go to our CSS. And I would put this somewhere in the mobile code, which is all that we have right now. So I will add that in down here. So I'm just going to paste and save. Come back in here, and then I'm going to refresh. And now my transitions still happen, but they don't happen whenever the page loads. You won't have to do those steps again. It was just for that one time. All right, next let's move on to social. So that's these links here, which are the ones with the pink box. So with this one, let's play around with the border a little bit. So let's go back to the CSS, and that was social. So it's got a border on it, it's got some padding, it's got some margin. Let's, on a hover, add a border radius, and let's do 15 pixels. Save it, come back and refresh. Now watch the corners of the boxes. Okay, so they kind of jump to that rounded rectangle, right? All of them do. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make it so that it has that transition. We want it to smoothly change between the two. I'm going to add transition, and then I am going to say border hyphen radius. Let's what we want. Let's do 1 second. Ease, and then 0 seconds. Now the reason why I don't have to have a border radius up here is because the border radius is just set to this 90 degrees by default. Okay, or in this case 0 pixels. So it just knows to animate or to transition between this state and then what we have down here. So the default is kind of assumed. All right, let's save that, refresh, and then look at those corners. Zoop, zoop, zoop. You have to make sound effects. You just have to. I don't know why, you just have to. Okay, so that was for the border radius. And then let's adjust padding. So let's say padding, and then let's do 2% top, 2% right, 2% bottom, and then on the left let's do a 50%. 50%, and let's save that, and then refresh. All right, so it's kind of jumping that over to the center, right? As well as changing the rounded rectangles. But we want that to transition as well. So on the social A, after the 0s, I'm going to add a comma, and then I'm going to say padding. Oops, padding. Let's do 1.5 seconds, ease, and then 0 seconds. And then refresh. Look at that. Kind of snazzy, right? Bloop, 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 bloop. So that padding is what's pushing it over. If we added margin, that would take this entire pink border and push it over. But since we just wanted the text, well, that's why we use padding. All right, next is colleges. All right, so it has a width of 20% with this background color. So let's change the width on hover and let's make it 100% wide. Not that you would have to make it 100% wide, it could be anything. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, great. So let's add a transition there. So hopefully you guys realize that after I make these changes, before I even get to the transition, I'm going to the web page and I'm making sure that just the hover state is working. Because if the hover state doesn't work, then your transition won't work. So do transition, and then the property is width. And let's do 2 seconds. Whoops. Let's do ease and then 0 seconds. Okay, so it starts off fast and then it kind of goes slow. All right. For this last one is called blogs. So with this one, what we're actually going to do is play around with background images on our links. So let's go to blogs, and just to clarify, there's no images here, right? There's no images here. We do have an image of dots here. So let's just add these in. So on the normal state for blogs, we're gonna do background hyphen image, and this is going to be /img background.svg. That should be correct. There we go. So we just got dots. Now the dots are repeating because by default a background image will repeat on its own. So what we want to do is we want to tell these dots to move. Well, we've never worked with moving a background image before. Like we've done a little bit. It was at the very beginning of Web 1. You probably don't remember, but we did kind of go over something called background position, and that's what we're going to kind of play with now. So we're going to, on the hover, say background hyphen position, and let's do 250 px, oops, and then 0 px. All right, so first it's moving it 250 pixels from the left. The second one is from the top. All right, so let's save this and then refresh. Put our mouse over it. Okay, so right now it looks like it's just moving it a tiny bit, right? But once we put the transition on it, you're going to be able to see how it's actually moving, like how far 250 pixels is. So let's go up to the normal state and let's add a transition. Okay, and come in here and refresh, and then watch this. Whoop, look at it moving. So 250 pixels is actually pretty far. So just to show you, if we came in here and we did, like, let's do 150 here. Whoop, that's a lot. That's 1500. It's not what I meant. So I'll save that. And actually, let me make this back to 0. Save it. Just that way you can see it moving the other way. So that's it moving like that. Kind of trippy that way. All right, so I'll make this back to 250. Let's try it with both of them. So now it's moving in a diagonal. Okay. So I'm just going to leave it back to 0. So I just wanted to show you, those are probably some of the more common ways that you can add transitions in. Again, on Blackboard, you want to make sure that you take note of what we had to do to prevent the transition from happening when the page loads. And then if you are interested, if a property will animate, I did include the link to the list of properties that are going to animate, so that could help you out. But most of the common ones that you would use are going to transition for you. And that is the end of the demo. That's all that you really kind of need to know. There wasn't a whole lot with this one, but it is kind of a neat effect. The transitions really just kind of help put that polishing, finishing touch on whatever website you're looking at. So it might be a good idea, even if it's not required, to try to add one in, just because it does give it that finishing touch. It does kind of look a little bit more refined and just overall more aesthetically pleasing. All right, if you were having trouble with this demo at all, As always, please make sure that you send me a message so that way I can help you out. Okay?